God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody tired? Yes. Bet you are. It's getting hot out here. If you get to feeling a little bit sleepy, stand up, move to the side or the back of the room for a minute, and we'll try to finish this up in a timely fashion. Okay. Turn to slide 85, I think it is. Step 11, construction and maintenance. Somebody want to turn around here? Ms. Freeman, would you read step 11?
Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our decision. Conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for Him, only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out.
Okay, good. Thank you. There's a couple of parts in there, isn't there? What's the first part?
Sought through prayer and meditation.
Sought through prayer and meditation. All right, we're going to keep this real simple tonight, all right? What's prayer?
Talking to God.
Talking to God. Are your thoughts prayers?
Yes.
Are your words prayers?
Yes.
Okay. Is it important that we keep our thoughts on positive things if we're looking to lay out positive thoughts? They're positive prayers, right?
Yes.
We need to be careful what we're looking at. You know, we've got 5 senses. We've got the sight and the taste and the hearing. We need to be real careful of what we watch. Okay? That's prayers. Meditation. What's meditation?
Listening to God.
Listening. Okay. So talking is praying. Meditation is listening. How many mouths do you have?
One.
How many ears you got?
Two.
What's that tell you?
You listen twice as hard as you speak.
Listen twice as much as you talk. That's pretty simple. Sought through prayer and meditation. Sought through talking to God and listening to God. To what end? Why do we want to pray and meditate? To improve our conscious contact with God. Now, how many of you have a conscious contact with God? How many of you throughout the day, and most of you, that's kind of a silly question, I think. Throughout the day, we all have those thoughts that God is with us. Or we don't have any thoughts that God is with us. Either way, we have conscious thoughts, right? Why shouldn't our thoughts be directed towards God if we're trying to develop a spiritual life? If we're trying to develop a relationship with God, we ought to develop that relationship by praying and meditating. Good place to start, isn't it? All right. You want to develop a relationship with some tattoo lady over here at the club, what's the first thing you do?
Talk to her.
Where's Mr. Rogers? What do? You talk to her. Okay, do you listen to her? And no. Back in the old day when I got sober, we did a lot of meeting after the meeting stuff. And we would leave the AA meeting at 9 o'clock. They were all at 8 o'clock then. We'd leave at 9 o'clock. We'd all run to the coffee shop. We'd fill it up and with 25, 30, 40, 50 drunks, men and women. And we'd drink 50 cents worth of coffee all night long. And half of them never tipped the waitress. I mean, we were a mess.
Oh, we hate you.
I know we hate you. They don't hate me. I was always a good tipper. I was always a big shot, man. At least that's the impression I want to put. But we used to go out and do a lot of that kind of stuff in a way that I remember is this AA romance thing. Now picture this. Here he is. There's Mr. Rogers. Here's his sweetie, and they reach across the table and they reach for the salt and their fingers touching. Oh, they got this AA love thing going on. You think, it's just so exciting.
Praise the Lord.
And then after a while, he's 6 months sober. She's sober and starting to realize that he's still a jerk even though he ain't drinking. And they reach for the salt and he goes, "Give me that damn salt." And that's the progression of our illness when we don't develop a relationship with God. Because if you can't learn to have a relationship this way, you're never going to be able to have one this way. So we need to learn to be able to communicate and to talk with one another. Talking, you can call it prayer if you want to. Talking, interacting with one another. Meditating, thinking about what the other one is saying first before we respond. Isn't that the same thing as this way? Praying and listening. Praying and listening. And if I can't listen to you, how am I ever going to learn to develop a way to listen to him? You got skin. I can see, touch, and feel you and interact with you. He's pretty much invisible, isn't he? So in order to make that relationship real, I need to learn to make this relationship real. Thus, it sets up the premise for having someone in front of us. I'm just talking to somebody about this. A sponsor. Having someone in front of us, a sponsor. Having somebody alongside of us, a buddy, if you will, in the program. And it's neat to see how you guys team up, and it never fails. And some of you guys hook up with one another, and I would have never figured that you guys would become buddies. It's not old and young, it's not black and white, it's not age, it's not this, it's not anything. It's God moving between you men. And I'm always amazed at how that works. And then you need somebody behind you. And here's where most of you are not going to succeed with any long-lasting, and I'm not putting a curse on you that's saying you're going to drink or use, but if you don't learn to reach back and communicate, you're not going to succeed. Because the biblical concept is, the Apostle Paul is the example I'm going to use. The Apostle Paul was schooled by the Billy Graham of his day, if you will. He was a biblical scholar. His name was Gamaliel. He was a student of Gamaliel. We know through history, outside of the scripture, that he was a big shot in the religious community. He was the teacher of all teachers. So Paul had a heck of a mentor in front of him. Then he had a guy that he hung out with, that he drug around with him. His name was Barnabas. And Barnabas went everywhere that Paul did. And he was like tied to the hip. And then after a while, they reached back and they grabbed a guy named Timothy. And they drug him along. Biblical concept. Somebody in front. In AA, we call it a sponsor. In church, you might call it a pastor or a mentor or a teacher or a spiritual leader. Then somebody beside you. You might call it your buddy. In AA, it's the guy that gets pissed off with you and goes and starts another AA meeting. Okay? You know how you start an AA meeting? You got a belly full of resentment in the coffee pot. You start your own meeting. That's how that works. I don't like that meeting. Them old ducks over there won't let me talk till I'm 5 years sober. Yeah. So you grab your coffee pot, you grab your buddy, and you go over and you start your own meeting. So you can be the big shot so the new guy walking in and say, "I don't like that guy. He's a jerk, won't let me talk till I'm 6 months sober." And then there's always somebody behind us. Now that's the biblical precepts, the teachings that Paul puts forth, the example he puts forth to us. So we saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with him, and the way we do that is right here. That's a good starting place, isn't it? To learning to trust one another, that somebody has got your, yes sir.
I was thinking, Pastor Don, when you were saying what you were just saying, I was reflecting on Pastor Paul. He really ain't want to deal with Mark either. Remember John Mark, he wanted to deal with him for whatever reason. I don't catch it on the biblical level, but he went back and got him anyway. And I relate that today as like some people, you know, they might not be growing like you would like them to grow and recover, or see things that you would like them to see, so you kind of like push them aside, but God's telling me still go get them.
Yep, yep. Good reminder there, huh? Here's something I just learned. This man is steeped well enough in the scriptures, but some of you guys ought to be leaning over towards him. He has some things of value to share with you. He has an understanding of who John Mark was in the Bible. Guy was a jerk. He didn't want to follow Paul. He wanted to run off and start his own meeting. Paul said, fine, that's what you want to do, knock yourself out, go. But after a while, guess who went back over and said, well, okay, Barnabas brought him back, I think it was. Barnabas brought him back over and he says, well, I don't know, we tried this stuff before with him, but if you're in, I'll take him and we'll work with him. And he turned out to be a good disciple. So just because we can't see it right off the get-go on the beginning doesn't mean that God doesn't have a plan to come back full circle with it, okay? Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood it. Remember when we went back through the third step and we noticed that the word we in the third step is underlined and italicized? And what did we say that was all about?
Verse 100.
God as we understood him, meaning God as we, the first 100 men and women, understood him. Now, if you want to know how I work the steps, you probably ought to come ask me. Don't ask him. He had no clue. He wasn't there with me, right? But if you want to know how I come to know God, ask me. I'll tell you. So if I was writing a book, as Bill Wilson did, I'd say the first 100 men and women, God as we understood him was this way. And that's what the remainder of that chapter and the next few books or chapters are all about. How did they understand God? It's important that we go back and find out how the early members of AA understood God. I'll boil it down for you. They understood God to be Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Every reference to God in the book has a capital G on it. Now I know you want to say, well, it's a higher power. We don't want to run anybody off. Really? If mention the word God runs a guy off, then maybe he ain't ready. The big book says, if you're not convinced that you need God, capital G, in your life, or that you need to get sober, well, have a drink. Have a couple of drinks. Try starting and stopping. See how well that works for you. It doesn't, does it? We need to be convinced 100% that we are so defective in our disease nature that we need a miracle. And the only thing I know of to create that can cause a miracle to happen is God with a capital G. No group is going to keep you sober. No sponsor is going to keep you sober. No steps is going to keep you sober. No intellect is going to keep you sober. I've been reading a big book again here, first time in a small season. And I'm reading through the chapter to the agnostics. And how, I would encourage all of you to read through it. How stupid we are to not see God in that whole chapter. A chapter to the agnostics, and there's God all over it. And how Dr. Bill Wilson wrote about the necessity to have that brokenness to where we could receive God into our lives. And then later on it says, if you can't believe in God, we feel sorry for you. We feel sorry for you if you're agnostic. But go ahead and knock yourself out. Try it your way. And I challenge you, man, try it your way and see how well that works. If it was an intellectual exercise, few of us would be able to get sober. Some might think they can. Some are too smart for this program. Some we have to teach to knock it off. I've had guys come in here that were so steeped in the Word of God that I put them on a Bible fast for 30 days. Is it not true? Pastor, you can't do that. That's the Word of life. Yeah, it's supposed to be the Word of life. But to you, it's an exercise in intellectualism. You're trying to figure out who God is and how He works and what He wants you to do. And I'm trying to help you to understand it's not about figuring anything out. It's about coming into a relationship with Him. It's about learning that He loves you. That He is open to you coming and receiving His love. How many of you are smart enough to figure out what God wants for your life? Step up onto the precipice of time and say, hey God, here's what I think you ought to consider for my life. If you do it this way, this, and this, I think it'd turn out beher than anything you might have planned.
I tried to make deals with him.
You make deals with him? Yeah, how well does that work?
It didn't work.
Yeah, it don't work, does it? It don't work. Because God's going to have His way.
Back at the Lamb.
Back at the Lamb, yeah. As we understood Him. God as we understood Him. And the God as we understand Him, it's all through the big book. And I hope by now through our teaching through these 12 steps, you come to see that it is Jesus Christ. Hey, Ronnie, that flies don't fly right up your nose, man. Uh-oh. Stand up over the side of the room if you're tired, all right?
Yes. I'll say one thing.
Okay. I don't want you snapping your neck, man. You'll be all right. Don't look at me that way. I'm getting all personal here.
A little smile. There you go.
Improve our conscious contact with God. Praying what?
For His knowledge of His will for us.
Only for knowledge of His will. How are we going to know the will of God? Praying is one way. Meditating is another. Reading His Word is another.
Getting connected to Jesus.
Getting connected to Jesus.
Faith.
Faith.
Loving others.
Huh?
Loving others.
Loving others.
Being around like-minded.
Being around like-minded people. Those are all the tools that God uses. Being willing, being open and willing to receive the message that I can't keep it if I don't give it away. I tell you guys the story of the Sea of Galilee. Now, can you picture in your mind what the state of Israel looks like? And up at the very top, there's the Sea of Galilee. And then down from the Sea of Galilee runs the Jordan River. And it goes into a place called the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is the lowest body of water on the face of the earth. Nothing that flows in there ever flows out. Now, why do you suppose they call it the Dead Sea?
Stuff dies in it.
Huh?
Salt water.
Okay, why is it salt?
That's what.
So is the Great Salt Lake in Utah. But it's
Because
not
whatever
dead.
goes there dies there. It can't get
Because
out.
everything that goes in there dies there. It is so full of bacteria that you can almost walk on it. I have laid in the Dead Sea, and you cannot. So you can take somebody like this and push them down, and they pop up like a freaking balloon. It's that polluted. Everything that flows in never comes up. You go 90 miles north to the Sea of Galilee, and it's water, that glacier water. It's cold and pure and sweet tasting. And the tilapia up there are about that big.
Isn't it the Dead Sea because it's like in the center of it all goes down into the Dead Sea.
Everything that flows into it,
doesn't run out.
that doesn't, it has no outlet. That's the point I'm getting at. There's no outlet. Let me analogize it this way. If all the blessings of God that come into our life stay here, it's my money, it's my sobriety, it's my meeting, it's my family, it's my program, it's my plan, it's my relationship with God. If everything is here and I don't give it back, what am I doing? I'm dying inside. Right? Now, does that set up a motivation for one to reach back and help some knucklehead like John Paul that didn't deserve to be? Apostle Paul says, I want to help that guy. He helped us up last time, remember? He's not one of us. He's a jerk. And Barnabas said, no, we need to take him. He said, okay, you take him, go that way, and I'll take Timothy and go this way. But they made accommodations for the knucklehead. They drug him along, if you will. They gave back in spite of how they felt. In spite of their experience. Their experience says, don't work with this guy, he's an idiot. And God must have told him, no, that's your brother. Help the idiot out. And so we reach back and we help the knucklehead, and guess what? It opens up. What comes in can go out. Yes, sir?
He made a big time. God's own gospel.
He did indeed. Didn't, no, different John.
No, the same Mark.
Oh, Mark, yes, you're correct. I was thinking the Apostle John, yeah. So he did make it, didn't he? But we need to learn to give it away too. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us. What's God's will? one of the things we can guarantee you is to reach back and help the other guy. Okay? Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Who's your neighbor? Not necessarily the guy you like. Doesn't have to. You don't have to like him. He's still your neighbor, right?
Probably not the guy you like.
Probably not the guy you like. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. I tell you, it gets a little tiresome at times when I rely upon my own strength or my own intellect or my own experience or my own abilities. I get frustrated because I don't have the words, I don't have the energy sometimes to put up with the crap that is laid before me, and I get a little cranky. And I'm always reminded that when that happens, it's because I'm lacking something. Not because you're lacking something. It doesn't make you right and me wrong. It just means that there's something going on with me that's preventing me from realizing that it's His power and not mine. And usually what happens is I'm operating in my own power. I'm operating in my own strength, my own flesh. In the industry, we call it burnout. Highest rate of relapse of any professional occupation are firefighters, policemen, first responders, substance abuse people. Very few people in substance abuse make it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And that's because they get burnout. What is burnout? It's a reliance upon themselves rather than reliance upon God. Now, if I am reminded that I'm cranky because I'm relying upon myself and my own abilities and my own strengths, then I can snap back into it and say, okay, Lord, I'm in over my head. You need to come in here and show me what it is that I'm supposed to do. The knowledge of your will. Tell me how to deal with this. Because here's how I want to deal with it. Praying for knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. If I had the power to fix a problem, I wouldn't need God, would I? I would be God. But I'm not that higher power. That higher power is God. Maybe find Him now.